Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Align Plans. Today we're talking about back to school because we are inching closer and closer to going back to school. And if you are a student and you're at a point where you're trying to prep for all the supplies and all the things, and you're trying to mentally prepare for the mental load that this will take on you, and you have decided finally to actually get a planner to kind of create some systems, then this video is going to be for you. Today, we're going to be talking about 3 separate systems that I think would be ideal for those of you that are going back to school in September. And I'm going to go over the pros and cons for each of them so that you can decide for yourself which one would be the most suitable, because each of them are slightly different, but they are all similar, but you get the point. We will just roll on in and we will kind of talk about what are the 3 systems that I think would be suitable for you to make your life a little bit easier, to get through the school year a little bit with ease and with a little bit less mental stress. So if that sounds good, let's just get started. So first of all, if this is the first time that we're meeting, apparently I had way too much coffee, but that's okay. If this is the first time that we're meeting, well, hello. How are you? My name is Meshi, and I'm the person behind Align Plans. We talk about anything and everything: minimalist planning, journaling, stationery, all the things. And the idea behind in this channel is to be able to use the things that you have with intention, so that they make your life easier, because they're just tools that are really here to improve your life, not necessarily to take away from it. So if that sounds good, then consider subscribing if you have not yet already. So the first system that I really wanted to talk about, and I think that this is going to be very timely because we happen to be in Hobonichi release season, is obviously going to be the Hobonichi weeks. So why is the Hobonichi week so special? Maybe you have seen it on Instagram, maybe you have seen it on TikTok, maybe you're hearing at the present moment in the month of August, you're already hearing buzzing around the Hobonichi weeks and Hobonichis in general. And the reason for that is because Hobonichi, the company, tends to kind of release their preview or their teaser, so to say, for the full month of August. But right now, we're not really here to talk about anything that's new that's coming out. We're here really to talk about and tackle what is already here and why is this system so popular. Well, as you can tell, this is in particular the one that I really wanted to talk about is the Hobonichi weeks. And it's a small little guy. It's like about the size of my pencil case. And I think that's partially what makes this so attractive, that not only is it small and compact, but it has so much space for the right things if you're using it appropriately. What do I mean by that? Okay, well, let's just open her up and then I will just kind of give you a quick overview of what you actually get when you get a Hobonichi weeks, if you are not familiar. So as you open it up, first, you are met with the current year. Let's zoom you in so you can actually see. All right, here we go. So you can see this year's calendar. You also see, mind you, this is in Japanese. So we're just going to ignore this. But these are, I believe, the holidays. And then we have last year's calendar and next year's calendar, just so that way it makes it ideal if you wanted to mark down like any exams, any important dates, any deadlines. It allows you to really do some future planning if that's what you wanted to do. Then we move into a perpetual calendar, which again, it kind of just breaks things down. And if you're smart, you can actually create like your own little, hopefully you can see it, but I created my own little color coding as well as some symbols that will kind of tell me, okay, these are like the days that I need to kind of pay attention to. This is when I'm on holidays. This is when I'm on, like these are the birthdays and all sorts of things. So like you can really track a lot of things here. Again, your days are going to be like, these are just the days of the week, and it's going to be in Japanese. You can actually get this and I believe you can actually get the Hobonichi weeks in an English version. Yes, you can. So just keep that in mind, that if you don't want the Japanese version, you can definitely get the English version, and definitely some of their larger planners, they do come in English version as well. And then moving into now, you also have your full monthly calendar. Monthly calendars, you can use them again in multitude of ways. You can either use them for your mental health if that's what you really want to do. If we're looking at schooling in particular, and we're looking at keeping track of things, and we're looking at future planning, and we're looking at deadlines and that sort of thing, I think that the monthly is such an awesome way for you to kind of future plan and then work your way back from each project, from each deadline. And it really allows you to kind of create systems where you can really break things down into the weekly, which after all the monthlies are here, and you have them from December of 2024 all the way up to, I believe it's January or February the following year. I know that at least for sure January of 2026 is here. Did they give you February? Yeah, and you also get February as well, and March. So it kind of goes pretty far into the following year if that's what you want to do. Now, when it comes to the weekly layout, and I think that this is sort of what makes this planner really shine, is the weekly layout that becomes so popular. So as you can tell, we have a grid. So this side is grid, this side is blank with, but it gives you some dots for markings so that you can create some sub-segmentation for whatever you need to do. So you can kind of create your own layout as you go, and you can create your own little columns for different sections that you wanted to keep track of. So usually some people kind of keep track of like any current events, any actual priorities or deadlines, any workouts, anything like that that relates to their current lifestyle. Or again, I'm not going to go into all the different ways that you can use this, but I wanted to kind of point out that anything that's writing that would be relevant for that day, most people kind of keep track of it here because you have a little column for each day. And then on the other side, you do have, again, like that inner fourth section of your page is already kind of divided for you. And then the rest is all grid. So you have the option to, again, create some trackers if you want, your full-blown to-do list, or anything and everything that is being relevant here. And then also, I tend to also keep track of, so I'll just show you like a filled out week, just so that you kind of get an idea in case you haven't really seen a filled out week before. I like to use this section for the word of the week. So if you wanted to weave in elements of intentionality and mindfulness and that sort of thing, I use this to kind of write out what is the intention of the week and what direction we're going, just so that we can kind of filter our week that way. And it's also sort of like a grounding practice for me to kind of know, okay, this week it's all about adventure. So let's really embrace adventure. So usually I keep track of priorities, inbox, and anything I'm reading. Sometimes I create a tracker, sometimes I don't. Again, this part is the fun part where you get to really customize it, because you might have a lot more writing, so your style might be a lot more minimal than mine, or you might want to add a lot more stickers and make it a lot more decorative. Again, I'm going to just let you kind of be the master of your own spreads. But if you're brand new to this, just know that it does not need to look decorative in order for it to be functional. So some weeks I actually add very minimal decoration. Some weeks I miss, but some weeks I add like very, very minimal stuff, and it's mainly just more about the writing. And then that brings me to the next section that I wanted to mention, which is what kind of makes this really unique and fun. And that's the back section. Now, in the back of this planner, keep in mind, like if you're wondering which version I actually have just a regular size. I didn't buy the mega. So if you wanted to have more pages available, I would actually opt for the mega. And the reason why the mega is a little bit more money is because the back section, which is the back of the planner, you actually get a lot more note pages than with the normal one. I don't use the note pages so heavily that I don't feel like, I don't feel like I need to have like 200 pages here. So, but that's just me. But you can kind of decide it for yourself. So the option is there if you want it. So I kind of created like a little color coding. Sometimes I follow this, sometimes I don't. And here you can sort of plan bullet journal style, which is what I tend to use it for. However, what you can also do beyond just bullet journal style planning is actually you can create like each page can be like a tracker. And I would just pop a couple of pictures here for inspiration, just so that you're you get the idea of what I mean by full page trackers. So I think that that would be ideal if you write in your different subjects that you're working with and the different areas that you kind of need to work on, or the grade expectation for that particular subject. You get the point. So there's a multitude of ways that you can really use it and make it your own that I think would actually be helpful. And it would also allow you to make progress, especially if you're striving for a certain mark, or you have like these certain goals that you really wanted to hit this academic year. Then this would be like a really nice way to kind of do that. And then you just constantly come in and just check in with it. And because it's so small and thin, the paper is also going to be thinner. So so a couple of things to note here. The paper is going to be thinner than your normal regular paper that you might be used to from like just, a regular like bookstore that you might pick up. So this is, because it's a thinner paper, it's a Tomoe River paper, it's ideal for fountain pen inks. You don't have to use fountain pen inks. You can 100% use something like a gel pen. This one is one of my favorites. This is the Pentel Energel in 0.5. So you have like a needle point tip, but you can also just simply use something like, and of course I don't have any of them in front of me right now. You can use something like the Muji pen. That's also excellent. This is also in a 0.5 thickness. It's not going to go through. For the life of me, I cannot find one Sarasa. Here it is. Okay, so here's an example of a Sarasa. This is the vintage edition. These are excellent. This is an oldie but a goodie. You can go with a 0.5 thickness. You can go with a 0.38. They're going to be excellent. So you're not necessarily stuck if you don't use fountain pens, and if you don't want to use fountain pens, you find them messy and just weird, then I wouldn't really worry about it. It's still, this planner will still work for you. So, and then I'm going to just leave links of where you can find this, but literally any bigger stationery store that specializes in Japanese stationery, they will carry Hobonichi. Or you can just simply order it through Hobonichi's website directly. My only caveat with this is if you're ordering this for a school year, I would actually get the one that starts in May versus the one that starts in versus the one that would start in January. Just because by January, if you don't already have a planner from September to January, you're gonna feel a little stuck. Even though these actually, I believe that you can get it started in November, but still, yeah, like very end of November, but still, that's still not enough time for you to, use it for the fall. So if you're looking for something that starts in the fall, I would actually opt for the one that starts in April. So that's more of a spring start. And then that way you're not worried about what's coming out in January. Or you can just get the January start and then call it a day. Let's move on to my second recommendation. So if you're finding that this is way too small and you want something slightly different or slightly bigger, then I would actually recommend the Take a Note. So let me introduce you to the bigger brother, which is Take a Note. So this is similar, but yet totally different. So I have a little cover here. I'll just take out the cover so you can actually see the planner. If you buy a kit, you get a cover with it, side note. Okay. So this is the Take a Note. This is in a B6 size. As you can tell, it's got like a hardcover, and this is in medium. It will say medium, and this one is a vertical layout. So slightly different than the Hobonichi Weeks, which is why I kind of wanted to highlight it. That again, this is, as you notice, this kind of falls into the same one booklet category that a Hobonichi Weeks does, because like the whole planner is in one booklet. So as you open her up, you're immediately met with, right now we're kind of switching things up. So you have the full 2025 calendar, and then you have a little perpetual calendar, but this is more designed to just highlight or like mark certain things. So I think that this would be ideal if you color code it and then you just basically highlight the days that are actually relevant, because you also get another perpetual calendar where you can actually start tracking things. So tracking things like when it's tax season, like I'm tracking tax season, but I'm also, I mark down everybody's birthdays. I haven't really used this for too many things because for me personally, this planner is actually being used as like a memory keeping journal. But I really wanted to highlight how you could use this for school, for schooling purposes. So once you go through the perpetual calendar, then we met with the actual monthly calendar. So the monthly calendar is slightly different. And as you notice, you will have more space to kind of play around with. So you have a nice healthy column on the side. You have a large space in the bottom. And then you have a nice thick border on the left-hand side of the page, which will allow you to, in my opinion, it will allow you to really create fun systems, trackers, right within the monthly, again, so that you can go in and future plan. And then you can take that information and you can plug it into a perpetual calendar where you kind of, each month, you can look at what's coming up. So then that way, you can kind of use all of these systems together so that they help you kind of pre-plan everything that is important for the next year. Paper quality, you will notice that this one is slightly thicker than the Hobonichi Weeks. I believe, I don't think that this is Tomo River paper. I will double check, but I will just write down some of the specs that I found online about the take a note. I feel like it is Tomo River paper. Now I'm questioning my own sanity. But no, I don't think it is. Anyway, I will find out. I honestly can't remember. And from your perspective, I don't think that you're so caught up on if it's Tomo River paper or not. I think that it would make more sense to kind of just figure out what type of pen works best here. Honestly, I tested all of them. I tested the Sarasa, I tested Muji, I tested the gel pens, and I write with this regularly. So I'll just show you what it actually looks like. And obviously, because I use, so this under 14, that says dinner and impromptu, like that's written with this pen. So, and that's a 0.5 needle point, fine tip pen, gel pen. But I've also used, obviously I have used like most of the Kawecos that are fountain pens. I don't think that for pens you would have an issue with it. If you're using like thicker writing pens, so if you're using something like, this is the Uniball Signal, but this is in a 1 millimeter thickness. So if you're using something like this, I'll just show you at the very back of it. But here I already have like an actual pen test page, but let me just zoom you in so you can see. So this one is the Uniball. So this is the swatch, and then you can tell that there is no ghosting anywhere. So I haven't really had any issues when it comes to ghosting with any of the pens that I tried, and I've tried like really heavy ink flow pens with really bright colors. So do with that information as you will. But let's talk about the actual planner and some of its features and why I think that this would make sense. We've talked a little bit about the monthly layout. Just zoom you out. Now let's talk about the actual weekly, which I think that you will care about far more than the monthly. The monthly is sort of like just kind of where you dump information, and then you can really move into the weekly where I think that this planner can actually shine. Okay, so here's kind of what's happening here. You have like a really generous amount of border here on the side, and then for each day, what I think makes this really unique is that for each day you have up to this point, up to like the halfway point of this page, you have like this sub-segmentation that's created, and only by like 1, 2, 3, 4 lines that are a little bit more bold. Here's a zoomed in version so that you can see what I'm talking about. So here are the lines that I mentioned. So you can kind of use this to kind of write down whatever's happening within that day. And then the bottom section of the page, in my opinion, this bottom section, you can create subcategories where you can write down anything that is relevant with each subject. So any important reminders, any financial updates, any workouts, anything like that, I think can kind of come here. And then these are all of the things that are happening that are day specific, obviously. So you can really, it gives you that flexibility to either just do like a timestamp and do time specific planning here at the top section. And then here you can kind of use this more like a project management tool where it keeps track of, you know, any assignments, any reading, any reminders, you know, like anything and everything that would be relevant within your school year, but for this specific week. And then once you're done all of that, then the back section, which is about midway through the planner. So once you're done kind of like here with December, then we're moving into just blank pages, which you can use to, like, if you kind of break up your page appropriately, which you definitely can, you can really get the bang for your buck because you have a dot here, you have a dot in the bottom, and you have a dot midway through the page as well. So you can kind of create your own grid, whichever way you want, and then you can create as little or as much space as you need so that you plan whatever is relevant for you that day. So I kind of like that you not only have perpetual calendar, you have the weekly, the monthly, and you can use the blank pages for do bullet journal style, really like minimalist style, just kind of dump all the information in here as much as possible. But it's not dated, which means that you can also just use this as a reference point. You can use this in a multitude of ways. It doesn't necessarily have to be a daily planner if what you're writing into your weekly layout is sufficient enough. So I kind of like this, and I like that it's not very expensive. My only thing is that it is kind of a pain in the butt to order it initially, especially if you're ordering it straight from Take a Note, because I believe I was paying Taiwanese, I think it was Taiwanese dollars. So the ordering process, unless you're going with something like your Seca, or if you're going with like the actual retailers where you can get Take a Note from, pre-order it. You will save yourself a hassle. But I mean, it's 100% possible for you to just go onto Take a Note's website and then order it straight directly from them. But just know that you might need to use Google Translate, or at least just kind of figure out the costing so that you know exactly how much you're paying. But having said all of that, I actually paid less for this than I did for my Hobonichi. So do with that information as you will. And then my last recommendation that I really wanted to mention, that I thought that if you're finding that you don't necessarily want like a one booklet situation where you're constantly carrying this one booklet with you and you wanted the flexibility of changing things out and making changes as you go, well, my friends, meet the VDS planner, meet the Ringbound planner. I fell in love with this very early on in my planning journey. And honestly, I have to say that I still have a really hard time letting this planner go because there's so much that I love about this. And every time I return to it, even though I don't use it nearly as frequently as some of my other systems, I still very much love it. There's still something very beautiful about how simple and how effective it is at just getting the job done. This is definitely not one of those planner systems that you set up and then you write and you journal for days on end. You can if you wanted to. I personally don't feel that same vibe from this. This is most definitely like, let me dump all the information in here and then I can find it when I need it. So let's just kind of talk about why I think this would be ideal. First of all, now the cover, I'm just going to mention just for 3 seconds the cover. If you're looking for something really beautiful and quality, I would 100% check out VDS. So their website is vdsshop.com. It's vendor spec. Vendor spec makes some of the most beautiful planner covers ever. This one is in a personal size. So just for size reference, it's really similar to the B6. So in case you're wondering like, hey, like, is it the same size? Yeah, really similar. The only thing that's different is that the inserts that I currently have here are personal size, and this can also handle the personal wide. Go figure. So, but here's what I love about it. First of all, it can act as a wallet if you really wanted to, because you have like a little zipper here. You have like a big pocket in the back, and then you have, that's nothing. And then you have like a little pocket at the front. And then at the very back of it, you have one huge secretarial pocket here, and then you have some card holder slots in the back. So that's it about the cover. That's all I really wanted to mention. You can obviously browse through and you can get term covers. Like there's so many different covers that you can get, but I happen to have this one, so obviously I'm going to tell you about it because I love it so much. Now let's talk about the inserts and why I think that this would be ideal. Especially if you're new to planning. I think that you can keep this as complicated or as simple as you want. I have a few inserts here that I tend to use quite regularly. So I just wanted to kind of mention those. So the first one that I wanted to mention is obviously going to be my weekly layout. I like the fact that I can keep this bulky if I wanted to, or I can keep it fairly minimal and only the essentials kind of go in here, which is one of the things that I absolutely love about this. So weekly, this one happens to be from Infinite Lotus. But you know, I'm just going to highlight again what I think would make sense. But again, you can get weeklies from Cloth and Paper, from May Paper Co. I've tried most of them and they're all functional and they all help. This is just the one that I happen to be sticking with right now. So I don't want you to necessarily think that only these inserts work. No, but I definitely want you to have at least one weekly insert, potentially one monthly insert if you feel the need for it. Okay, let's take a look at why I like this. So first of all, with regards to the weekly, you have a lot less space, but it's a lot more functional. So you have a little square for each day. So there's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then you have a note section. And then now the lower quarter of your page are set up for priorities, for habits, if you happen to want to track your habits. And then the rest of this small section is dedicated for your to-do list. This will force you to really condense what you write. This is not when you write a soliloquy. This is not when you really offload most of your ideas. This is literally math here, English here. Professor Johnson wants chapter 1 to 5. That's sort of like, if you would have to really, really condense what you're writing in here for this to be as functional and as effective as possible. So a couple of things to mention. And again, like I would just like to say, if you're not into smaller planners, you will probably hate this, because if your writing is a little bit larger, then you might have a harder time with writing into the spaces, or you're not going to be able to get as much use out of it. So then obviously just size up, but the system still will function the way that you want it to function. So definitely, I think that like it's essential to have like a weekly overview, because not only can you oversee the entire week of what's happening, but then it will also allow you to make notes. Like the note section can actually just be used for what's happening next week, or what to look out for, or what came up this week that will be relevant. Maybe not this week, but it will be relevant on like April 5th or something like that. So it will be relevant in the future. That's where you would use the note section. The second insert that I wanted to mention that I think would be essential and it would make your life so much easier is a task list. Task lists are sort of like an inbox insert where you just write all the things that you need to do, you put in a due date, and then you can start checking them off. So this is ideal if you have like a whole bunch of different things that are due in different categories of your life, and you just do a full brain dump here, and then as you go, you kind of start checking them off, but then you can also start scheduling those tasks into your week. So self-explanatory why I love it, and I think that this will make your life easier, especially when you have to pay attention to multiple things in multiple categories. And then the last insert that I think it's not going to come as a surprise to anybody, and I'm going to have an honorable mention in a moment, but the last insert that I think would be really helpful is obviously a daily insert, just because essentially what I mentioned here with the weekly first, if you're finding that this isn't enough and there's a lot more that you need to keep track of that is relevant, that's where your daily can come in. And I think that this would make your life easier. Again, I really love the fillable portion of it, that you can just write in whatever date it is. And then you have like a full section up top for priorities, for an inbox. And then you can also do some time blocking and some pre-planning of what's coming up for your agenda. Pretty self-explanatory. Usually most of these inserts, you can get them as a double-sided insert, which again is very helpful. and then you either copy them or you just get them refilled. Honorable mention is going to be obviously dividers, because then that way you can create subsegment your pages and create different categories. And then also having sticky notes. You don't need to have color sticky notes. If you have them, use them, but you can get like really beautiful ones, or you can get super basic ones. But I love these because they allow the information to kind of pop off the page so that it stands out, and then you remember them a little bit easier. But that's pretty much it. I'm trying to keep this fairly like simple so that you don't overspend on tools. You get the basic tools so that they really start helping you in the process, basically. But you can make them really beautiful and decorative, which means that you're more than likely to actually stick with them and use them on a regular basis. But those are like the three main inserts that I would kind of go for, is that weekly, the daily, and obviously the task list, which I think will make your life so much easier. This is basically all I wanted to share with you. Now that we've kind of talked about all three systems, here's your question of the day. I would love to know in the comment section which type of planner you're planning on using in this school year, in this academic year. Please comment below and let me know, because I would love to hear your thoughts and where your head is at. But I hope that you have found this video helpful and useful. And if you did, you can give it a thumbs up, you can subscribe, you can do all the things. And in the meanwhile, just keep planning, keep journaling, keep doing all the things. And I cannot wait to see you in my next video.